Hi, I'm Jessica Knapp from Canada's History Society. We're here at the Canada Science and Technology Museum in Ottawa, Ontario. We're going to go behind the scenes and take a look at some of their artifacts, and some of them might surprise you.
In today's world, science and technology are significantly connected and constantly evolving, with advances in both fields spurring each other on. Their histories can tell us a lot about how humans interact with the things we make, with each other, and the world around us. During our visit to the museum, we were invited into the collection's storage to learn about a few objects that help tell these stories. I first met with Aaron Secord, who is a conservator at the museum. Aaron specializes in the storage and display of artifacts with particularly challenging materials.
So what are we looking at today?
Well, today we're looking at a pair of fluoroscopy goggles, and these are pieces of protective equipment that will be used by medical practitioners, such as a radiologist, to look at a fluoroscopy, which is a kind of a live version of an X-ray that would have been used in like the 50s and 60s. So you would have had a patient standing in front of a screen with a radioactive element involved and a viewer looking at the live version of what you're seeing inside the body. So if you think of it as like a live streaming X-ray type of thing. And this is to protect their eyes from any sort of radioactivity. So here you have leaded glass goggle lenses. You have Velcro straps to keep the goggles in place. And you also have this protective shielding that's made actually out of polyvinyl chloride plastic, which is a plastic that we have in all sorts of materials that we use every day. But because these goggles were used to protect against radioactivity, we anticipate that there's actually lead incorporated into the polyvinyl chloride plastic. So in this case, you can actually see, if you get close enough, you can see it's kind of got like a little sticky texture to it. So you might be able to feel it with your glove, that this plastic actually sticks to your glove a little bit. So what's happening there is we're having the plasticizers, which can be a phthalate or can also include lead to increase the shielding, is coming out onto the surface of the plastic. This is not great for our artifacts because it can actually lead to corrosion of nearby materials, because some of these plasticizers are corrosive. So in order for us to keep these artifacts in good condition, we have to keep in mind what the PVC needs, because this polyvinyl chloride is the most susceptible part of the artifact. So we have to kind of cater our storage, our handling, and our display to maintain this PVC as best as we can.
So how would you display an artifact like this?
So normally we would not display an artifact like this because we wouldn't want to have this level of light on it. But fortunately, in the galleries that we have in the new museum, we have the ability to kind of create some custom purpose-built exhibits. So in this case, the goggles are stored in a dark cabinet, like a dark display case, that visitors can activate some lights inside with a button to see what's inside.
To some, the 1980s don't exactly feel like history. But when it comes to technology, many things have changed since then. Tom Everett, the curator of communications at the museum, explained how the Sony Walkman revolutionized the way we interact with private technology in public spaces.
There had been devices that people used with headphones going back to the 20s, but most people typically listen with loudspeakers outside. And what the Walkman did was introduce a new way of headphone listening outdoors, redesigned the headphones to be smaller, more lightweight, and more acceptable. And it caught on really quick. At a really important moment, there was a lot of boom boxes and things at that time, so it was getting really loud. So a sort of middle upper class clientele decided it might be a more polite way of bringing music out of doors and blocking out those sounds. So yeah, it was really, really influential. So typically when we handle it, and you're welcome to handle it, we never grab it from here, and we try not to grab it with one hand. Typically right here is great.
Yeah.
And keeping the wires away, because even the wires scraping across it could cause it to break apart. But when you look at it close up, you can see just how airy it is, and how gentle you need to handle it, because that would just flake right off. The original Walkman actually had 2 headphone jacks.
Wow.
So one of the concerns Sony had would be that people would interpret headphone listening as being antisocial. So they figured, well, if people want to listen together, especially couples, the idea was to put 2 headphone jacks in, and then each person could have their own pair and they could listen together. But there was other concerns, such as what if you're, just say I was listening in the bus or on the bus and somebody wanted to talk to me. So what they added was a hotline button. So if you look at this microphone here, and then you look at the hotline button, what this would do is when you press this, it would lower the volume of the music going in your headphones, and it would microphone the surroundings and feed that in so that you could actually hear the person talking to you without ever taking your headphones off. Interestingly enough, they found that people really weren't using these features and quickly designed them out of the device. So even within a year or two, these features didn't exist anymore. What's really interesting is how all these features are being retroactively added now with certain apps and certain headphone designs. And a lot of people tout this as, wow, what a great idea. This is new and innovative. And I always have to laugh a little bit to be like, Sony did that. Like the very first model actually had all of those features. Yeah. You can actually hold it if you like.
Excellent. Wow. Oh, it's a bit heavier than I thought
it would be. It's weighty, eh?
Yep.
It's a difficult thing to do these kinds of histories because the technologies have changed so much, but so has our ways of listening. Mm-hmm. So the ways that we understand headphone listening, the way that we would interpret the experience is very different than somebody buying a Walkman for the first time in 1980 and walking out into the streets.
Yeah.
So trying to capture that historical experience is really, really challenging. Okay. It was really quite amazing that it succeeded as it did, because a lot of people expected it not to succeed. But ever since then, people become more and more accustomed to listening in public spaces and doing so privately. So I think you could probably make a pretty good argument about the ways that people in cell phone culture are comfortable talking and listening on the phone.
Curators are constantly having to make difficult choices about which artifacts to exhibit, and many never make it out of storage. Anna Adamic, curator of natural resources and industrial design, introduced us to the history of mining technologies with the help of this enormous drill.
Are you going to put it together for us?
Oh, we can both put it together.
Okay.
Great. I don't think one person could do this.
Okay, I would love to help.
Here, you have your main drill.
Yep.
You have your rod with a drill bit.
Okay.
The drill bit disassembles, but it's been on it for so long that I can't actually move it. So then, if you don't mind holding on at the end, we can put in so we secured it inside. And then you would use your leg.
Okay.
So you wouldn't actually have to hold the entire drill.
Okay.
You would position that leg. It's not standing up. It's still in this kind of position.
Yeah.
You would press it against the wall of the mine.
Okay.
So now you get that additional help.
Wow.
So the leg would go on top.
Wow. And then your pin.
So now imagine that this is a wall of a mine. You can press it there.
Yeah.
It's much easier to raise it up. It actually would be flipped around.
Okay.
So the mine is on top. It would be much easier to operate.
Yeah.
We use this drill for different events where people actually could handle it and could see how heavy it is to mine, what a hard work it is. And the house itself was quite fragile, we found.
Yeah.
After years of use, 1976 till late 1990s, it took lots of beating. So there is already some conservation done.
Wow. Would you tell me a little bit about the tent that we went into?
So yes, we didn't see so much drilling on the exhibition floor because it is quite challenging to convey it, but we decided to show how we search for minerals. In the tent, it is an actual tent, prospector's tent, in which a person like this prospector would live. He spent 3 years prospecting for gold in Haiti. We have his entire collection, all the tools that he used as a prospector that he had with him. And then we have interactives around that let our visitors experience what is it like to find a mineral and then assess what it is. You have to experience it to understand what this work is, how this technology interacts with a person, how a person interacts with the technology. Walking into that tent lets you experience the life of a prospector abroad. You are in the same environment as that prospector. We have to remember that there is always a real person behind the technology. In that case, it's the Canadian prospector. In case of those drills, you have the miners in South America. You have Canadian researchers, mining engineers who then handle this drill. I was talking about different lives. That yet another life of this drill was an experimental piece that you experiment with. Not a piece of drilling technology anymore. And now, of course, another stage of the life of this object, it is an artifact that we handle with care.
Yeah, exactly. Well, thank you very much for showing me the drill.
You're very welcome.
It's a unique part of the Canadian experience that most people don't get to hear about. And to have the opportunity to be here today and help you put it together, that's very cool.
Aaron, Tom, and Anna are just a few of the people working to bring the history of science and technology to life. We know that everything has a history, but this visit was a good reminder that each piece of technology has a human story behind it.